In July 1940, Europe was at war. Nazi forces had swept across the continent and stood ready at Calais, just 20 miles from British shores. This was Britain's darkest hour. With invasion seeming inevitable, Churchill signed an order to create a new secret army. Their mission: go behind enemy lines to disrupt the German military machine by any means possible. Made up of soldiers and civilians alike, they were called the Special Operations Executive, or SOE.
This was extremely dangerous. The risks were immense for agents who were sent into enemy territory.
Now a group of 21st century people are about to take on a training program which has spent 60 years under lock and key.
Would you be able to kill?
I'm going to sound like a terrible person, but I think yes.
By undergoing the same assessments as the 1940s trainees, they'll find out how ordinary men and women became deadly weapons of war.
What interests me is how these people were transformed into spies, into silent killers, into resistance organisers, a complete SOE agent.
And they'll discover how a handful of recruits became a network of thousands who helped liberate Europe from Nazi occupation.
The end of the war in Europe officially announced by the Prime Minister.
This is an extraordinary project about extraordinary times, extraordinary training, and extraordinary people.
Are we going to be like sleeping in barracks?
I think it's going to be. I don't know. It's going to be in the middle of nowhere. I think it's going to be quite isolated.
These 14 people are being taken to a country house in Scotland. SOE requisitioned at least 30 such properties during the war. Their secluded locations making them perfect for top secret activities.
OK, ladies, gents, if you can, please, let's get ourselves off the bus.
Meeting them is one of the school's instructors, Nikki Moffat. She has 27 years of military experience, and when she left, was the highest-ranking woman in the British Army.
The Special Operations Executive was very much about bringing in people who may, on the face of it, have appeared ordinary and unlocking that extraordinary talent.
Agents were selected from every walk of life, from wealthy aristocrats to refugees fleeing Nazi oppression. SOE would consider anyone with brains and courage, and these modern candidates have been chosen to reflect the diverse range of people recruited and the skill sets they possessed.
So what languages do you speak?
Je parle français.
Und auch können Sie Deutsch sprechen?
Ja, ich kann Deutsch sprechen.
Pani moje po-ruski?
Ja, pani moje po-ruski.
Languages and a knowledge of Europe were an advantage.
I've done deals in France, the UK, the Scandinavian countries, obviously Germany, Spain, Italy.
As were the physical attributes to fight for their lives if required.
I enjoy Chinese martial arts, Kung Fu would be my preference.
And an ability to work in hostile environments.
In the police, I was put in different situations every single day. A lot of people might have shied away from, but I kind of faced up to them all.
This is never going to work.
He's a hustler, this guy.
All the candidates impress on paper, but before progressing to full SOE training, they'll face the same selection process as 1940s recruits. An intense 4-day course known as the Student Assessment Board. While they're here, their every move will be assessed.
It's quite fascinating seeing what activities they've involved themselves in. Dewhurst immediately onto the billiard table. It's almost a way of sort of showing off.
Probably, if anything, I'm too relaxed. I've just gone into this really open-minded. I'm not going to try to second-guess it. The lads who did this for real, they wouldn't have been able to second-guess it. They wouldn't have been able to Google it, wouldn't have been able to look it up. And I think it's important we go into it with the same authenticity.
I'm quite scared, I'll be honest with you, I'm quite scared. From being in the back of the truck on the way here, I was sat between two guys, both ex-army, Sammy and Rob, and, you know, I would struggle to get into the brownies, frankly. So, you know, from my point of view, it's a bit nerve-wracking, yeah.
Right. You're here because you have the potential to become agents of the Special Operations Executive. You'll undertake physical tests and personality tests.
Some of you may not make it through the selection process. Indeed, you might be asked to leave at any stage if we judge you unsuitable.
During wartime, up to 35% of students failed to make it through selection.
The selection process has already begun. Good luck.
The man placed in charge of SOE was Minister of Economic Warfare, Hugh Dalton. His vision was for an underground movement whose guerrilla tactics would put them outside the remit of both Britain's intelligence services and its armed forces. He stated that its agents would need a fanatical enthusiasm. Finding them required a selection process as revolutionary as the organization itself.
Captain Rennie.
Instructor Mike Rennie is a military psychologist at Sandhurst. For him, SOE's approach to assessment was groundbreaking.
The SOE were more worried about how the agent went about doing the test as an insight into their personality. And that's actually quite a clever way of going about things.
All the assessments these modern students will face are lifted straight from SOE selection, starting with a barrage of mental tests.
This test is designed to assess your powers of observation and recall. You will see a plan of a building and will then have 20 minutes to memorise that plan. And your 20 minutes starts now.
SOE instructors were searching for people with nerves of steel. But unable to replicate the stresses of life in the field, instead, they got creative.
Right. I hope you were paying attention. How many shots were fired when the two men entered the room?
I just heard a loud bang and I thought, oh, something's fell off the wall. Just carry on, just carry on. And then I heard, like, everybody down. I was like, oh, no, it's not just something falling off the wall. So I saw this gunman. I was like, ah! And then he'd gone. And then it was like, OK, we're going to get questioned on that, aren't we? Yeah.
What was shouted?
You have no idea what's coming next. And I think that's exactly how they want it to be, how they need it to be, because that's how it would have been.
Whose jacket was open? Put your pens and pencils down. We got them hot under the collar, and certainly the cogs were turning in their brains. From my perspective, it's a good punchy start.
I was like, my face on.
The way they responded to the gunman was very interesting. Stone's reaction, he was straight under the desk and probably a little bit overwhelmed by what we're taking them through.
I was absolutely petrified, I don't mind telling you. All I heard was somebody shout, get down, so I did. I flung myself off my chair under the desk, so I did miss a lot of the observation, unfortunately, because I was under a desk.
The next test is a test of your mechanical aptitude.
As well as finding people with the right skills, SOE also used assessments designed to uncover hidden talents.
There are 3 models for you to try to build: a garden chair, an aeroplane, and a bridge.
Meccano sets were regularly used during selection. A steady hand while performing complex tasks under pressure was essential for performing acts of sabotage, like blowing up bridges, factories, or railways.
If this were, say, constructing a weapon or an explosive, then the very smallest mistake could mean disaster.
Okay, Stanley.
Most of the candidates complete the first model within 10 minutes, but some are struggling.
There are a few students who are showing a lack of urgency, in particular Kamara. If they can't achieve the mission in a reasonable space of time, it's not what we're looking for.
Council Administrator CB Kamara is the last candidate to finish the chair. The only person to complete the most complex of all 3 models is maths graduate Alistair Stanley.
21 years old, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
What about sort of sporting pursuits, physical activity? What do you do for that?
I do a lot of track and field athletics.
And to what level?
To a very high level.
On a scale of 1 to 10, where would you rate your fitness?
I would put myself at 10, sir.
If I was to tell you to go and change and run a mile and a half now, how quickly would you do it?
I would say maybe 6 minutes and 45 seconds.
Do you think you have a cool facade?
I think I do. I've often been described as having a quiet confidence.
So listen to the record. You will hear an introduction to the sounds used in Morse code transmissions.
In this test, you will hear long and short sounds. This is a short sound. This is a long sound.
As well as assassins and saboteurs, assessors were looking for people with technical aptitude. Wireless operators played a vital role in SOE, and anyone with a natural talent for Morse code was quickly identified.
Morse was the only way of communicating with Great Britain. It was an absolute lifeline for the agents.
Interpreter Charlotte Beauclair and paralegal Will Beresford-Davies both had wartime relatives with a flair for Morse.
My grandfather was an SOE agent, and he was trained as a radio operator. I'm very proud of the role he played, and it's stories that we've heard as I was growing up.
That's great-grandfather, and he was in the resistance when the Germans invaded. Apparently he used to sit in the cafe in the local village and watch the main road and then radio any German troop movements.
So quite likely that he would have had some contact with SOE?
Yes, yeah, pretty likely, yeah.
So let's look at a hypothetical situation. You receive a message that you need to attack a factory. You discover that the factory is in fact being guarded by a local gendarme. Could you kill him?
They have chosen their side, so... And if they're getting in your way, then yes.
No.
The first day of testing is over. Students came from diverse social backgrounds, but SOE expected them all to dress and act as officers.
You'll need to wear these this evening for dinner.
I'm only small. These are going to come up to my waist.
Mate, I'm at max capacity. Look at this. There's only so far I can wedge myself. What do we do, chaps?
Dr. Bailey, if you could just talk us through how the chips work.
Yes, of course. OK, so this is the authentic system that SOE used for the Students' Assessment Board. The red chip, that is an outstanding. Yellow was good.
Results from selection testing are recorded daily, using coloured poker chips, just like the original SOE.
Green was above average, blue was below average.
Guiding the instructors in what to look out for is leading SOE historian Dr. Rod Bailey.
One of the greatest things that interests me is to see whether the qualities that made SOE agents 60, 70 years ago are still really there in people today, but whether they can actually be extracted.
Dewhurst, results are OK. He's there or thereabouts. I think people are certainly forming an opinion about him, though, as a character.
Ah, jeez. I think he thinks he's better than he is. And he certainly thinks he's better than I think he is.
At this stage, it's very important to keep in mind that we are just looking at people. This is raw material very much. This is before they've even gone to their training, so we're just looking for potential, really.
Right, now, Mr. Stanley.
He was exceptional on the Meccano.
Third highest score in the Morse. He's looking like a strong profile at the moment. Comments to make?
He's got an engineer's brain.
Kamara. This is slightly disturbing on the face of it because she's already notched up 2 fails, and that's in the mechanical test, in which he was very, very slow, and in the gunman observation.
She's engaged and very interested in the tests, but she's painfully slow.
Let's see whether she picks up her game.
By autumn 1940, SOE needed exceptional agents and fast. Hitler's grip on Europe was tightening, and Nazi U-boats were laying waste to British convoys in the Atlantic. But Dalton was struggling to get SOE off the ground. He needed a way to get agents behind enemy lines, but both resources and support were in short supply. The RAF were to protest that dropping assassins in plain clothes was unethical. And the Navy turned down SOE's request to transport agents across the Channel. The fledgling organisation had yet to prove its worth. Day 2 of selection.
Anyone else want a paper?
During their time here, the candidates will have no contact with the modern world, and the only news they receive is from the 1940s.
Blitz bombing of London is continuing and going on all night. So London's getting a hammering.
Sirens howled the alert. Bombs began to fall almost immediately. High explosives, screamers.
While the people still searched their ruins of their homes, the Germans droned overhead, dropping more bombs, adding to the destruction.
With the Blitz, Hitler brought terror to the streets of Britain. The endless nights of aerial bombardment caused some to despair and others to fight back. Yvonne Rudelat, a French woman living in London, lost her home in the bombing. Afterwards, she joined SOE and became one of the first female agents to enter France.
That's the end of that section.
After yesterday's mental tests, today the students will face rigorous physical assessment. This demanding assault course has been reconstructed from the original SOE syllabus. The course was made famous by this 1946 film about SOE called Now It Can Be Told.
Stand by, Ali. Go!
First to face the assault course is former soldier Sami Ali. Each obstacle he completes will earn him points. In order to pass the test, he needs to score 50 out of a possible 90 points in under 5 minutes.
Well done, Ali. Let's keep going now. Push yourself.
The final and toughest obstacle is a 10-foot wall worth 25 points. Despite active combat experience from his tour of Afghanistan, Sami is beaten by the wall.
3 minutes, 52, ma'am.
Thank you.
Like Sami, the next candidates all earn enough points to pass. But overcoming the wall is proving problematic.
And 5 minutes is up.
Just don't have the upper body strength for the top.
Ready, Jeffries?
Yes, sir.
Stand by. Go!
Standing at just over 5 feet, research scientist Lizzie Jeffries is the smallest candidate.
Well done, Jeffries.
During the Second World War, the traditional armed forces excluded women from frontline combat, their roles limited to those of support or administrative staff. But SOE was different. They actively recruited female agents. And when put through selection, they proved themselves every bit as able and as ruthless as their male counterparts.
Now, amongst the things that the women who joined SOE were asked to do was to kill people. How would you feel about that?
I'm going to sound like a terrible person, but I think if I had the orders to kill someone, I could, without a second of hesitation, kill someone.
50 years before the military allowed women into combat roles, female SOE agents were serving secretly at the very heart of the action.
Excellent effort. Stop there. Wait, have a breath.
Lizzie Jeffries is the first to conquer the wall.
Sir, 2 minutes, 42.
Is it moving? Oh my gosh.
CB Kamara is finding things tougher.
Oh my gosh. I hate heights. Oh my God.
It's just a fear I've always had. I've never liked heights. I've never liked anything that's involved heights. Oh, God. Like planes, for example.
Charlotte Beauclair also fails to impress.
Why did you decide not to do the barbed wire?
I was concerned that I get my hair caught.
OK.
Charlotte's not the only candidate to avoid certain obstacles. Rob Copsey lost his leg in 1994 while serving in the British Army, so decides not to attempt the log and the jump. In wartime Britain, disability was no barrier to being selected for SOE. In fact, one of their most famous agents was, like Rob, an amputee. Virginia Hall, who had lost her leg in a hunting accident before the war, was known by the Gestapo as the Limping Lady. She helped run a resistance network in Lyon and smuggled escaped POWs out of France, where the Nazis considered her among their most dangerous opponents. Rob has enough points to pass, but he tackles the wall anyway.
Come on.
Good man, well done. Well done, Copsey.
Hey, Mum.
How was that for you?
Hard work, Mum.
OK.
And I believe I scored enough points. Done a little beat you.
By December 1940, SOE had selected dozens of agents, but lacking support from Britain's Air Force and Navy, were yet to deploy any on a real mission. Luckily, the organisation had a secret weapon. Brigadier Colin Gubbins, an energetic army officer in his 40s, had won the Military Cross during the Battle of the Somme. And having witnessed firsthand the effectiveness of guerrilla warfare while fighting the IRA, was the perfect person to realise Dalton's vision. Gubbins was appointed SOE's head of operations and training, and quickly began setting up an extensive network of training centres. SOE had been petitioning the Air Force to allow them to drop agents by parachute for several months. And as they awaited a reply, Gubbins began searching for people with great courage and a head for heights.
There's some ropes above us. Your mission is to go from that tree to that tree using the ropes.
So during selection, on the final part of the assault course, agents faced a choice: the low ropes or the high ones.
It's a very straightforward choice. Do I decide to take the easy route, or do I decide to take the difficult route? This is a test of courage.
But not everyone will face the ropes. Paul Stone has been taken ill with a migraine.
Does this happen a lot?
It hasn't. It used to when I was a lot younger, but I hadn't had anything like this for about 3 years. It's just obviously unfortunate. It's sort of happening now.
Lizzie Jeffries is first to tackle the ropes.
My heart's going 100 miles an hour right now.
She chooses the higher of the two routes, a terrifying 60 feet above the ground. But she's wearing a safety harness, unlike her 1940s counterparts, where one slip could have proved fatal.
I imagine that what they were looking for was people's ability to function in the face of panic.
Jeffries leads, others follow. In the 1940s, not choosing the high route could result in an instant fail.
OK, Kamara, you're next.
Thank you.
CB Kamara's best chance of passing selection means facing her fear and choosing the high ropes.
Oh God, is she going to the top?
God help me. God help me. Look down. Oh my goodness.
Just because I have a fear of heights doesn't mean I have to give up. I'm going to keep trying.
Hopefully I can move on because I need to move forward. I can't keep pressing backward.
Well done.
Sorry, I just need to take a moment. It's made me now realise that if I can face that, my overall fear for the last 22 years of my life, then what else am I capable of doing? I feel like I can do anything now. I could probably parachute from the sky.
It's been a really fascinating day. Many of the judgments that I was making yesterday have been slightly turned on their head. I was hopeful that some of the women would step forward, and Jeffries, for me today, has done so in spades.
I'm loving it. Even though I am absolutely shattered, I could really just go to bed right now.
Very, very impressed with Copsey. Got himself over the 10-foot wall. This is a guy with huge abilities, rather than a person who is disabled.
Do I think I have an idea who will pass this selection phase? No, not really. Everybody's got something to bring to the table.
Kamara.
Well, that woman who was afraid of heights, she went up and over the top wire, showed extraordinary grit and determination. It was a very emotional moment for her, and I have to say I had a lump in my throat too.
Bedtime? Bedtime, I think it is. Get ready.
See you at 0800 hours.
It's the candidates' third day of selection. Tomorrow, they'll find out who will make it through to training and who will be asked to leave.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the pond test.
Their mission, taken from the original SOE syllabus, is to get the entire team to a platform in the middle of the pond and return with a wireless radio.
You may use any equipment that you can find in the vicinity of the pond. The nominated leader is Dewhurst. Carry on.
Dan Dewhurst's team, made up of half of the candidates, will be first to take on the task. The rest wait their turn, unable to observe.
Obviously, we don't know what the task is. I think we should choose a leader just in case there isn't one chosen for us.
Whoever is going to be the leader, then we've all got to respect that and let that person lead.
We're going to tie a rope like this around one end, another around the other end, and then we're going to do a crisscross as well. Yeah. So we're going to really bind these well. How much rope have we got?
SOE selectors were always interested in people who demonstrated strong leadership.
Yep. Now make sure it's taut.
In the field, agents could be required to inspire and run large guerrilla resistance armies. In 1943, Agent Francis Camerz, a teacher before the war, established an SOE network in Provence. He soon gained a reputation as one of the most outstanding leaders in SOE's ranks, and by D-Day had a force of over 10,000 local resistance fighters armed and waiting for the order to attack the occupying Nazis.
Dewhurst, I've wanted to give him an opportunity because he's been straining at the leash to take the lead, to show us what he's made of.
this isn't going to hold, so I'm going to go round once more, and then we're going to get the other log to the same the other side. Everything needs to be taut. I don't want any loose piece of rope on this kit.
And in fact, it looks like they're getting somewhere now.
Be conscious of time, so speed things up. Less taut, more tying, I think.
If we do need to choose a leader ourselves, nominate Rob.
I would be totally happy with Rob. I would be totally happy with Rob. And actually, I think one of the reasons why we all kind of default to you, Rob, frankly, is because you have had the life experiences that are closest to what we're experiencing now.
I appreciate your confidence.
No pressure, Rob.
No pressure, no.
But it is.
At stroke. It's taken them over half an hour, but Dan Dewhurst's team have built a raft and are on the water.
Yeah.
Dewhurst has done well. He was very clear in his instructions, and slowly but surely, he's got that raft across the pond.
Dan, can you just lean forward a bit, mate?
I don't move, mate. I think we're just about at equilibrium.
What a save. But they got a lot further than I thought.
I desperately want to proceed to training. I really, really want this. Whether I deserve it on that performance is another matter, but I really would love to continue. I feel like I'm learning all the time. If I was given another opportunity to that task, I'm confident I would make it a great success. But that's life, isn't it? You don't always get 2 shots.
How do you feel?
Wet.
Terrible.
OK, wet, terrible. Anything else?
Disappointed?
Do you know, we need to give ourselves a bit of credit, though, the fact that we managed to get all the way there virtually with that thing. We did well,
yeah,
you know.
none of us have any raft making skills,
Exactly,
so
you know.
we could put something together to get us
Yeah,
there.
we didn't do it, but, you know, we give ourselves a bit of credit.
Yeah.
For the second team, the same mission. But despite their plans to promote COPSI, the instructors want to put someone else under the microscope.
Right, you're the leader. Thank you, Mum. Right, guys, let's huddle. So should we collect the items, see what we've got first? Let's bring everything up. So everybody grab something and let's go.
Leave our water bottles here.
As quickly as we can, guys.
Even though Vicky Wright is in charge,
So we need to make a frame, guys.
No, let Ali go first.
What do you think? Make a frame?
Make your frame.
other voices quickly emerge.
Bottom or sides?
I think they'll be on the... Yeah, we can do either or. Let's bring some ropes around. Let's get these... Let's make a frame first.
Yeah, square first.
Let's make a frame, guys. Just leave that there for a minute. Let's go that way. I like the way you're thinking. So we can try that. But we don't overcomplicate this.
There is no leader. It's meant to be Wright. COPSI took over Wright from the outset. And everyone has been throwing their views and opinions and thoughts in. So it's a bit of a cluster, basically.
As well as looking for people with clear leadership qualities, SOE needed recruits who would take their time and assess the whole situation. Luckily for Vicky Wright, she has maths graduate Alistair Stanley on her team. He's the only person to carry out a full search of the area.
All right, guys, there is a ready-made raft.
Where?
Just sitting in the brushes over there. We could paddle it around.
Go and get it.
Okay. Let's scout this out.
SOE always hid a ready-made raft just out of sight to see who was smart enough to look for it.
Good stuff.
Okay. It's quite heavy. I've got the raft.
Nice one.
Using the raft, they make short work of the task, running relays until the entire team and the radio has made it to shore.
Well done, guys. Bloody amazing. Well done.
Well done, Vic.
Well done, guys. Good work. Selection, obviously, just round the corner. I just hope I've done enough. I've tried my best in all of it, so I know no matter what the outcome is, there's not a lot more I could have done.
I thought that was utterly chaotic. But interestingly, of course, at the end, in 22 minutes, They'd achieved their mission.
Other team was much more organised, but ended up soaking wet.
Defies expectations, really. We've talked at length about Dewhurst and some of his personality traits. So there is a doubt in my mind about him, but he performed so well today that I've just pushed some of those doubts and concerns to the back of my mind.
So the second group?
So the nominated leader was right. What I would have expected her to do was to immediately grip the situation and take charge. And initially, she did take charge, but 20 seconds before Copsey was in there.
Do you think she lacks impact?
I do think she lacks impact.
It's the final day of selection. The candidates, except Paul Stone, who is suffering from another migraine, are about to encounter the most divisive test faced by the 1940s recruits. In January 1941, SOE finally got the news they'd been waiting for. After the invasion of Poland, thousands of members of the Polish armed forces sought sanctuary in Britain, and Polish fighter pilots played a crucial role in winning the Battle of Britain. The RAF was now prepared to help SOE mount a mission into Poland. This was SOE's chance to prove it could successfully drop trained agents back into Europe.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask you 3 questions, and I want you to write the answers on the paper in front of you, being as honest as you feel able. This is an assessment of each other's capabilities, not an assessment as to whether you like or dislike each other.
Because agents would often have to work in groups, SOE knew that often the best people to judge the candidates were the candidates themselves, so they introduced the buddy rating.
Question 1. Based on what you've seen thus far, which 2 students would you take with you on a mission into enemy territory? Question 2. Of the 14 students, who would you choose as your leader? Question 3. Of the 14 students, who would you leave behind? Captain Rennie, collecting the papers, please.
The assessment is something that I had been doing in my own mind for some time. And I mean, the reality is, this is not a time to be nice. This is a time to be objective.
I'm going to ask you each in turn to stand up and to give your selections. Jeffries.
I selected William and Dan as the 2 agents that I would like to take with me into enemy territory. Choose Dan to be my leader.
Ali. Question 1.
Question 1, Mum, I chose Robert Copsey and William Beresford Davis. Question 2, Mum, I chose Robert Copsey, and it's someone that I would certainly follow.
Question 2, leader I chose Rob.
Rob Copsey is the person picked most as leader.
I chose Rob. Really can command respect amongst the team.
Closely followed by Dan Dewhurst.
I chose Dan. As a leader, it's important to be able to boost morale, and I think Dan is able to do that.
I chose myself. I like to be responsible for my own actions.
But it's the final question that the candidates find the toughest. Who would they leave behind?
It's a hard decision to make. I choose CB.
Of the 14, I would leave behind CB.
The question you should ask for yourself is, which person in this group am I least comfortable entrusting my life to? Question 3 is, my choice is Paul.
Paul, Mum. just because he does get ill quite a bit.
I chose CB because she seemed highly distressed by the process.
CB Kamara and Paul Stone received the most nominations, but not everyone agrees.
Bajaj.
I chose the person that I felt may draw the most attention to us on a mission when you have to be inconspicuous, and for that reason I selected Dan.
I certainly don't believe that I'm the weakest candidate. She's clearly betrayed me there. I also thought it was inaccurate. You know, the things that actually, you know, sort of hide in plain sight. Yes, I am noisy, I am outgoing, I like to chat. I think it's important to have good people skills, good, you know, good likability as an SOE agent. The things that matter, I keep my cards quite close to my face.
You had to nominate someone. We didn't have to, I suppose, but we were asked to do it. I think we should be proud of ourselves that we all did it and we all stood up and said a name.
I wasn't surprised that Kamara, Stone were identified as individuals who might be left behind. A number of people selected Copsey as a team member and leader, and the other one I thought was really interesting was Bajaj, who said that she would leave Dewhurst behind because he's too sort of almost loud and flamboyant a character.
I think for me, concerns about Dewhurst's personality are at the front of my mind.
But you know, as we've observed, Dewhurst was selected by a number of individuals, both as team member and as leader.
The 4-day selection process is over. Now the instructors must decide which candidates should progress to full training.
Beauclair?
Beauclair chose not to do the barbed wire obstacle, and her rationale was that she thought that her hair would get stuck in the wire.
Let's be honest, worrying about one's hair in the barbed wire is a lame excuse.
Very lame. Very, very impressed with Copsey, immensely impressed by Jeffries.
Kamara, a very pleasant young woman who I think has come quite a long way during this process, but I think she is young and I think she's a little immature. Right. She has some capabilities. She's physically fit. I'm not sure how committed she is. OK, listen in. Captain Rennie is now going to read out a list of names. If your name is called, I want you to stand up and then follow him out of the room.
Ali.
Yes, sir.
Bajaj. Barris. Beresford Davis. Clitheroe. Copsey. Dewhurst. Jeffries. Stanley. Thomas.
OK, I regret to tell you that you have not been selected to continue on to the training school. Thank you.
Sir.
Disappointing, because I would have liked to experience everything, obviously, that the SOEs would have had to have gone through, but I'm also aware that there's a very specific skill set that they would have needed, and if you don't tick that box, you don't tick that box.
I'm not going to let it kick me down. I understand they have reasoning behind their decisions and they know what's best, so I can only move forward and just understand that it is what it is.
I'm a little bit surprised because I thought I performed a little bit better actually on most of the tasks, but really have to be very careful who they selected because they were such important missions.
Every bone in my body aches and I nearly drowned and I crawled under barbed wire and I had 3 migraines, and do you know what? It's been one of the best experiences of my life. I've absolutely loved it.
In February 1941, 7 months after Churchill issued the order to set Europe ablaze, SOE were poised and ready for their first big test. On the night of the 15th, 3 SOE-trained Polish servicemen, Szymowski, Zabielski and Raczkowski, boarded a plane bound for Poland. They the RAF had modified a Whitley bomber, adding an extra fuel tank so it could make the treacherous 14-hour flight. The trio were dropped in southern Poland and made contact with the resistance deep behind enemy lines. This success showed SOE's critics what it was capable of, but now it had to focus its ambitions closer to home.
Okay.
The next target was France.
Congratulations, ladies and gentlemen. You've made it through selection. OK, stand up. Paramilitary training starts now.
In July 1940, Europe was at war. Nazi forces stood ready at Calais, just 20 miles from British shores. With invasion seemingly inevitable, Winston Churchill created a new secret army. They were called the Special Operations Executive, or SOE. Now, a group of 21st century people are taking on a training program which has spent 60 years under lock and key.
Would you be able to kill?
I'm going to sound like a terrible person, but I think, yes.
By undergoing the same assessments as the 1940s trainees, they'll find out how ordinary men and women became deadly weapons of war, revealing the secrets of one of the most remarkable organizations in British history. In the Scottish Highlands, 10 students are about to take on a guerrilla training program designed to prepare them for life in the field.
I think we'll start learning tactics. We'll start learning the weaponry, explosives, etc. So all the skills that we would actually need to carry out missions.
I'm quite excited about getting to use some weapons. I've never really done any weapons training before, so I think that'll be pretty interesting.
I feel like training starts here. This is the bit I'm most excited about.
Unless they made serious errors in training, most 1940s recruits who made it to this stage were on a path which led straight to occupied Europe. By February 1941, Hitler's grip on the continent was tightening. So far, SOE had managed to deploy just a handful of agents behind enemy lines, and were yet to achieve any major operational successes. Officials in Whitehall were starting to question whether it was a waste of time and money. People at the top of SOE, like Director of Training and Operations Brigadier Colin Gubbins, were under pressure to start delivering.
Just like you, many SOE agents began as ordinary civilians.
The syllabus will be overseen by a team of instructors with military backgrounds, led by Lieutenant Colonel Adrian Wheel.
This is where they were transformed into saboteurs and assassins. They had to be ruthless. They had to kill or be killed. You are going to follow the same course, learn the same skills, and be trained, tested, and assessed in exactly the same way.
Often operating alone, agents had to be able to defend themselves. So the first stage of the syllabus the students will tackle is weapons training.
My aim here is to make sure that you are capable of surviving in a hostile environment with only the bare essentials that you've got.
They'll be taught by former RAF firearms instructor David Main.
Who thinks they're going to be really proficient? Who thinks they're going to be a really good shot? Oh, that's confidence.
You got to believe in yourself, sir.
Well, we'll see. Who's had any experience with firearms at all? Hands up. So what's your experience with firearms?
4.5 years in British Army, in the infantry, various weapon systems.
Good. Yes.
Shooting range in Vegas, fired a minigun. Can't see how that'd be relevant here.
Well, it's not really relevant here, but we'll see how it goes.
SOE's brief to set Europe ablaze meant fighting a war of sabotage and subterfuge. It required training unlike anything taught by the traditional armed forces. Brigadier Gubbins had served in Ireland in the 1920s, witnessing firsthand how effective the guerrilla tactics of the IRA had been against the might of the British Army. Now, he passed the very same tactics onto his recruits. SOE's approach is said to have earned them a nickname from Churchill, the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare.
You take the pistol, with the safety catch, we remove the magazine. The next thing we do is cock the weapon to the rear and look inside to make sure that there is no round in the chamber. So with a magazine of no rounds, load. Okay, just make sure that you're pointing in a safe direction.
I've never held a gun before. I've never wanted to hold a gun. I spent 5 years at medical school, 10 years of being a doctor to help people and save lives, not to hold a gun and use a gun which could potentially kill someone.
Right, with a magazine of no rounds standing, load.
Before the students can proceed,
unload.
They must prove they can operate the weapons safely.
Dewhurst. Okay, hand me your pistol.
Magazine's here.
Clear? Okay. You keep the pistol, you never swing it round like that. Okay? You keep control of that pistol with the grip. It's not a cowboy weapon, all right? Watching too many movies.
Safety training complete. The next step means taking to the firing range. Armed with real bullets.
Suddenly they give you live rounds. Now this is a real weapon. In these circumstances, you're taking one life to save many. For an SOE agent, this is your survival. If something goes wrong, this is your get-out plan.
Unload!
Dan Dewhurst has had a shaky start to weapons training.
I think I'm suffering from it's too much instructions too soon. Sometimes you just need to, know what you need to be doing, calm it down, and just do what you think's best.
Dewhurst.
This one?
Okay, pick up a pistol. Take your finger off the trigger, okay? Right. 5 rounds grouping to the target in front.
Am I hitting the target, Corporal?
I'm interested in what you're doing. Somebody's watching this. If you're hitting the target, let's hope you are. Unload!
It's an absolute baptism of fire because I've never fired a pistol before ever, so it's my first time. I'm dying to get back on it.
Okay, so that's your first shoot. Good news is some of you hit the target, some better than others, but otherwise, it's not a bad effort. The problem is, it's not the SOE way.
Life for an SOE agent behind enemy lines was perilous. They survived under cover by blending in with ordinary civilians or hiding out with the resistance. By operating outside the rules of war, if caught, they could face execution. A cornered agent had to use methods that maximized the chance of killing the enemy.
Fire!
So students were taught to fire twice in quick succession, a technique known as the double tap.
Okay, once again. Any questions?
Watched by instructors Nicky Moffat and Mike Rennie.
Your choice will be to shoot from the crouch position or from the aimed position.
Paralegal Will Beresford Davies is first up.
Whether it's long range or short range, we double tap on everything. Ready. Target right.
Recruits were taught that close targets should be shot from the hip for speed, while distant targets need an aimed shot for accuracy. This exercise was all about teaching rapid and instinctive decisions that could save an agent's life.
You're focusing on doing it right, being safe, but being quick. And knowing what to do when you react.
It's bizarre because you know he's not a real person, but when they're popping up at you, you're like, bam, bam. It's like, oh my gosh. And then you come out of it and you're like, did I just do that?
Despite only a few hours training, most of the students are learning fast.
Am I ready to go?
Target right.
But not everyone is feeling confident.
Down, it's good.
The judge is in the business of saving lives, so to come out here and to be handling a pistol will doubtless be very alien to her.
Good.
I saw at least one round right in the centre of the target.
Did you?
Yeah, so you've clearly got the capability.
Next up is Dan Dewhurst.
This should be good fun.
Just concentrate. Think about what you're doing. Nice, sharp, clean drills on the pistol. Okay, remember to take your finger off the trigger. You don't need it on there yet. Okay.
I haven't got the magazine in yet, though.
As soon as you're loaded, it doesn't matter. Just keep your finger off the trigger. Okay.
Should I?
No, wait. Just wait. I'll tell you everything you need to do. Take your finger off the trigger. Okay.
Sometimes SOE had just weeks to train an agent.
Finger off the trigger. Finger off the trigger.
So during the war, there was little time for recruits to repeatedly get things wrong.
Unload. Every target you engaged as an aimed target. You didn't need to do that.
That was my plan. I wanted to try to build on my...
You won't survive in the field with that. You'll be taken out very, very quickly.
Well, maybe that's what I can conclude.
Yeah.
In March 1941, the need for strategic successes against the Nazis could hardly be more urgent. Britain had been ravaged by the Blitz for months. The Luftwaffe had shifted their deadly sights from London to other targets, places like Hull, Coventry, and Plymouth. Keen to prove that their guerrilla tactics could be a valuable tool of war, SOE hatched a plan to fight back. They called it Operation Savannah. 5 agents, including 23-year-old Joël Letac and 25-year-old Jean Formand, were dropped near Vannes in northwest France. Their orders were to ambush and kill the pilots of a German squadron spearheading the nightly bombing raids on Britain. The SOE team intended to attack the crews as they drove to the airfield. But by the time they arrived, the airmen's routines had changed, making the ambush impossible. The operation was aborted and the SOE agents dispersed. It was a disappointment for Gubbins and his fledgling organization, who were already preparing more ambitious missions. Missions which would require another set of skills found in the SOE syllabus.
Quickly, please, come on.
Hand-to-hand combat.
SOE had to train potential agents how to kill quickly and fight dirty. I'm going to hand you over now to Major Hunter, who will take you through the training.
Do I have your attention?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
SOE agents had to think about facing a situation where it was them or an aggressor, and they would be trained to kill with their bare hands. Okay, dress off, please. 2 to a mat.
Major Chris Hunter is an ex-Special Forces soldier. He'll be teaching SOEs top-secret techniques in unarmed combat and silent killing.
I need a volunteer. Okay, come up to the front, please.
In situations where agents couldn't carry guns.
Just throw your arms around my chest.
Or where the sound of a shot being fired would give them away.
The first thing you're going to do is a rearwards head strike, like so. As fast, furiously, and aggressively as you physically can do.
They'd have only themselves to rely on.
If that hasn't released them by that stage, you're going to use Colonel Fairbairn's favourite, which is a short, sharp, ferocious strike to the balls.
Major William Fairbairn and Captain Eric Sykes were the architects of SOE's close combat training, where the rules of fair play were abandoned in favour of what they termed gutter fighting. They'd honed their skills as policemen patrolling what was known as the most dangerous city on Earth. Before being fully occupied by the Japanese in 1941, Shanghai was partly run by the British and was a hotbed of unrest, famous for opium, violence, and organised crime.
Fairbairn's technique was the classic chop, and the chop is the edge of the hand strike.
Their lethal methods combined martial arts with the filthiest street fighting of the day.
Adam's apple. Bridge of the nose.
Nothing was off the table, from eye gouging to face tearing and testicle crushing.
Your hand clasps over their nose and you poke into their eyes with your fingers. And at the same time, you follow up with a groin strike to the balls.
There was only one aim: to win.
Okay, there are a number of ways you could use these sticks.
The radical new combat methods that Fairbairn designed for SOE went on to form the blueprint of British and American Special Forces training still in use today.
Okay, we need to do this with maximum aggression. This is about killing.
Different from anything I've ever done. I've never done hand-to-hand combat.
Lots of aggression and visualise the outcome.
I've had fights as a kid. We've all had the odd brawl, haven't we, men? Yeah, I mean, I've used a headbutt before and I've been headbutted before.
Bridge of the nose.
This is different. This is lethal.
The situation was absolutely dire. So I think that it probably was pretty easy for people to say, you know what, enough with being a gentleman, we just have to do whatever is necessary to win.
After a difficult morning on the firing range, Dan Dewhurst is hitting his stride.
I've done a bit of martial arts training, so yeah, feel a bit more at home with this one.
Dan isn't the only one with martial arts experience.
I'm quite comfortable with the idea of striking other people.
One more time.
Scientist Lizzie Jeffries is highly trained in both karate and Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Excellent, that's good. Well done. Okay, practice on one another?
None of the martial arts I've done before have focused on killing. The one I do most, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, is you focus on arm breaks and leg breaks, ankle locks, chokes, that kind of thing. But none of it's aimed to kill, it's aimed to knock out or incapacitate. So the aim to kill is very different.
Good.
Thanks very much, Major Hunter. Practice.
The first day's training is over. Tomorrow, the students will be tested on the pistol and combat skills they've learned today. Hidden in the Highlands, students were largely isolated from the day-to-day realities of war. BBC Radio was one of the few sources of news.
When dawn broke the following morning, it was drizzling, and there was a mist over the town as men and women began to crawl out of their shelters to look for their friends. Hardly a building remained intact. It seemed so hopeless with our homes and shops and places of work and so much of our lovely old city in ruins.
The BBC also broadcast foreign language reports. For those living under Nazi rule, these were often the most reliable source of news.
Tu Radio Polskie na gościnnych falach angielskich. Dzisiejsza nasza audycja przynosi przemówienie do...
Translator Magda Thomas was born in Poland. There, more than 5 million people died during the war. nearly 20% of the population. It was a country that suffered more than most under the Nazis.
What were they saying, Magda?
Well, it was a general saying about what's happening in Europe, that Germans are progressing and it's a very difficult position we are in. But it was like, you know, it was very serious. I just tried to imagine what it has been for people who were then in Poland.
By 1941, thousands of Polish Jews had been incarcerated in ghettos or forcibly sent to labor camps. But Nazi depravity would plumb new depths in January the following year, when at a meeting chaired by high-ranking SS officer Reinhard Heydrich, the Nazis formalized Hitler's plans for the so-called final solution. The mass, systematic extermination of Europe's Jewish population.
So, you grew up in Poland?
Yes, I did.
Tell me a bit about your family background in Poland. I've got some photographs here which you've given us. Perhaps you could talk about them.
This is my grandmother, and when the war started, she was about 20 years old, and she was one of the 4 sisters, and her elder sister was engaged in the underground army, and there was a traitor in the group who betrayed them, and my great-aunt was sentenced to death. She was executed. So it's quite emotional for me to speak about it. My grandmother, she always said that she was the bravest of us all. She was the best of us all.
Morning, I trust you're all rested from yesterday.
Before agents could be sent into the field, SOE used a variety of methods to ensure student skills were up to scratch. From so-called mystery houses, where enemies would spring from booby-trap rooms, to the woodland pistol course, later made famous by this 1946 film, which showed SOE's training methods.
You have to decide how to use your cover, and you have to decide how you're going to move swiftly in getting through.
1940s recruits would have practiced with real bullets. But firing on the move is so dangerous, these students have to use the next best thing.
That's the round that you'll be firing. This is the paint marker. It's a non-lethal round.
What we're looking for clearly is aggression. We're looking for skill, but we're looking for focus rather than any amateur dramatics.
Ex-paratrooper Rob Copsey is first. He must move quickly from one end of the woods to the other. And just as the original SOE students were during training, he'll be subjected to the sound of gunfire in order to add pressure, shooting at both fixed and moving targets. He'll also be expected to make the forest work to his advantage by using it as cover.
Stop there, unload.
His use of cover was good. He moved purposefully.
Yeah.
Accuracy was getting the rounds on the targets that he hit.
Yes.
And it was a good effort.
Property developer Dan Dewhurst is next.
I'll give you 2 magazines, put one in your pocket. Thank you.
So what I want to do is observe Dewhurst, make sure that he is safe so that I can allow him to move on to more advanced weapons, but also that his temperament and his attitude towards weapons is acceptable, because at the moment I'm not sure that that's the case.
It's very difficult to remember all the firearm safety drills. It's a lot to take in. So for me, yeah, really, really outside of my comfort zone, because you're just thrown in the deep end.
He did okay. I didn't see any safety errors. His use of cover was good. very good in parts. OK, beschäftigt.
Thanks, man.
Having been uncomfortable so far with weapons training, Dr. Rohini Bajaj is aiming to put her qualms to one side.
I've decided to give it a go. I want to prove to myself that I can do it. I'm sure SOE agents back in the 1940s, I'm sure they wouldn't give up. So probably what I need to do is be a bit stronger.
On sound of the whistle, you will advance through the door.
I think if you're a secret agent, your task is to protect your country. You can't let your thoughts of peace and harmony affect that.
Stop there. Unload.
She was getting rounds on target as well, wasn't she?
No, those good hits. So I think we're happy with that.
Happy? Yep.
I think it's about persevering, keep trying, especially for an agent when they only have 2-3 weeks to learn all these skills. So I'm sure some of them would have struggled on this aspect.
24 hours ago, many of these students had never picked up a gun.
It's amazing that from being shown this is a pistol, we were suddenly firing at moving targets. And that presumably is some reflection of how fast people had to pick things up.
Thanks to SOE's intensive training program, they're starting to look like real agents.
It was target trigger off, target trigger off. It's like, it's so quick. You don't have time to think. You just react.
Polish-born translator Magda Thomas is the final trainee to enter the woodland. During the course of the war, over 600 Poles completed SOE training.
Good, good, good.
Well done. Got 2 rounds left.
What a good job.
Good.
I thought she'd be good, but I didn't think she'd be that good.
Yeah.
That was very impressive. How do you think you did?
I think I did quite well, but I could have done better.
Well, I'll tell you how well you did. You were the best of all the students.
Oh, I'm surprised, to be honest.
Your reactions throughout were very quick. You used cover exceptionally well, and you had a real sense of purpose. Well done.
And he flew over and he arrived at Ireland.
How crazy is it, like, how natural it is?
Yes, it is. It's more natural than I thought.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
it's just instinct.
Yeah, it's thinking that they were real people. But when you're in there and as soon as you see it, it's like, I'm getting you before you get me.
Yeah.
In June 1941, Jean Formont and Joël Latac reunited for a new operation. Codenamed Josephine B. The plan? To destroy a power station near Bordeaux. Formont scaled the walls and opened the gate. Then the agents set explosive charges before escaping by bicycle. These 6 electrical transformers were destroyed, resulting in major disruption to Nazi-controlled submarine bases, railways, and factories. News of the successful attack reached Churchill 2 weeks later. SOE was finally proving that their unconventional tactics could deliver results. Sabotage was at the heart of SOE's strategy. So a vital part of SOE's guerrilla training program was how to use explosives.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, how are we all today?
Thank you.
It's like a lizard.
No, it's a rat. This is an exploding rat. Now, the idea of this was to attack and destroy the industrial machine. Quite often they use furnaces, the idea being that if you could get an explosive device inside a rat, the stokers, as they stoke those fires, would just shovel in the coal with the numerous dead rats that they saw every day. And the time pencils that were inside would cook off and the high explosive charge inside the rats would detonate. There are some unconfirmed reports that up to 9 furnaces were destroyed this way. Other reports suggest that no furnaces were ever destroyed because the Germans got wind of the fact. But notwithstanding that, of course, it still enabled them to disrupt the effort, because the Germans then had to start cutting open every dead rat they saw to see if there was an explosive device inside.
It's brilliant, isn't it? I mean, they've got people behind the scenes thinking about how their agent's going to work and what they're going to need. Everything's got to be concealed and hidden. So why not have an exploding rat? I mean, how brilliant's that?
These are your sticks of plastic explosive. Help yourself to a rat.
Would you like to inspect the rat? You're going to have to at some point.
You need to flip your rats over onto their backs. You need to cut the belly of the rat. OK, gut it, so you've got a hollow cavity. And then you're going to put your plastic explosive inside with the time pencil inside, going to its anus, where the copper ampule is.
I don't eat meat, I love animals. So, yeah, a bit... sorry.
Looking a bit tentative there, Miss Clitheroe. Have you not done this before?
Never in my life.
Didn't do biology at school?
I did, but I didn't do the frog. I took all the frogs and put them in the pond. It was hard. It was just really hard. But I had to put it into the context of what we're doing. So I would have to become hardened.
OK, 60 more seconds then, and then I'll be inspecting your rats.
I've had my boots inspected, I've had my kits, I've never had my rat inspected.
OK, so good charge there, but we just need to get it more inside, OK? We're going to go down to the demolitions range, and you'll see the power of an explosion of 6 ounces of high explosive detonating.
I never in my life thought I would ever gut an animal or anything like that.
Look to your front, and you'll see the first one detonating now.
I think I'm discovering that I'm the person that if it needs to be done, it'll be done.
The successful Bordeaux mission had shown that SOE's explosives training could get results. They were now producing fully fledged assassins and saboteurs. Gubbins and his team had demonstrated that a small band of highly trained agents could take out key targets. But far from rest on their laurels, in October 1941, their operation stepped up a gear as they began to prepare for their greatest challenge to date, the assassination of a high-ranking Nazi.
You will now undertake the same practical test of silent killing skills that was undertaken by SOE agents. The chief of the Gestapo's office is in the room next door. Your mission is to kill the Gestapo chief and then get out.
Although many were low-tech in appearance, SOE's tests were designed to assess not only what the students had learned, but whether they possessed the ability to think on their feet, under pressure, and expect the unexpected.
OK, Barris, let's go. You're first. Come on, let's go. Go. In.
Retired banker Roger Barris is first. He goes for a classic Fairbairn chop to the Gestapo chief's Adam's apple, but fails to notice 2 guards appear from behind the curtains.
Dummy there, fuck. Get in there, do your job. Go.
Debbie Clitheroe shows good aggression and even spots one of the guards. But has to go back for the other.
Look around at the desk. What else didn't you see?
They're big stick.
The stick,
So,
OK.
Yes,
OK.
ma'am.
You're probably dead.
In the 1940s, only 1 student in 10 used the weapon and passed the test.
Although you got the 2 targets you saw, you would be dead because they would have engaged you, or the second one would have engaged you.
Did you take the weapon on the desk?
No, I just hit them.
I was totally oblivious. In retrospect, the thing would have been to grab the weapon.
Yeah.
First one would have been a solar plex shot.
Yeah.
And then up.
It's easy with retrospect to say. It's so easy with retrospect.
Ex-paratrooper Rob Copsey spots all 3 dummies and is the only one to use the stick.
There is no question that those 3 enemy personnel would be dead in relation to the blows that you administered to them. So aggression, excellent. Observation, didn't see the stick first time, but great that you saw it the next time you went
Should
round
have
the
warmer
table.
glasses next time.
And you used it very effectively with the 3rd dummy.
Spot.
Well done.
Thank you.
Come here, Dewhurst. OK. In 10 seconds, how do you think you did?
Could have been better. Could have been better. I came in, I wanted to check the exit points, make sure there's no way they could escape. And then when I realised the enemy was over here, took out the primary target, 2 appeared, killed them, they've seen me, got out there as quick as I could after that.
OK. Just look back to the desk now. Is there anything you might have missed?
Yeah, there's plenty of weapons, but I was confident that, you know, I could kill with my hands. I already felt like I wasted enough time looking at the exit points. Just wanted to go straight for the kill.
OK, so you decided that it was quicker to get round to the back of the desk.
Yeah, that was a mistake. I should have just died at the desk and straight for him.
OK, what's on the desk?
All sorts of different weapons and things, but I didn't see them. I just saw the target, went straight for. Sure, if I didn't want to faff around with getting weapons, I could see him. I felt like I wasted enough time. I was hoping he'd have the deer caught in the headlights. He'd be a bit startled. Just go for it as best I can.
OK.
The test has given Lieutenant Colonel Wheel food for thought.
Dewhurst was somewhat cavalier in his attitude, which really is a major problem. Not from the point of view of his ability to do the tasks that were setting them, but from the point of view of his personality and how he reacts to instruction, how he behaves around authority. His attitude has not improved sufficiently for us to be confident that he can absorb the training.
It's the final stage of training in the art of guerrilla warfare.
Does everybody want to gather round?
And having learned the key elements of Gubbin's syllabus, today the students will undergo the same training used to prepare 2 Czech agents, Josef Gabček and Jan Kubiš, for one of the war's most audacious missions: the assassination of Reinhard Heydrich, one of Hitler's key henchmen.
This is the Mills grenade, number 36.
To carry out the mission, they'd need to learn to work with advanced weapons.
This is the preferred guerrilla's survival piece of equipment, pocket artillery. And you're going to actually learn how to throw these and operate them.
Grenades were a key part of SOE's paramilitary toolkit: light, lethal, and cheap. The Mills grenade was designed to fragment when detonated, sending shrapnel in all directions.
Come forward, collect a grenade.
With a blast radius of 60 feet, they're so dangerous that the students must start by throwing dummies.
OK, that's it. Prepare to throw. Throw!
One person who won't be taking part in advanced weapons training is Dan Dewhurst. He's been asked to see Colonel Wheel.
Yeah, come in. Mr. Dewhurst, please come sit down. We have seen a lot of very positive characteristics from you while you've been here. I think you've displayed some leadership, you've displayed some practical skills, you are physically fit, but I honestly think you're temperamentally unsuited to SOE, and therefore, rather than drag this out, that we should end it now.
No, thank you, sir. I appreciate the feedback very much. It's quite an intense process in here, as I'm sure you're aware. It's a lot going on in there, and I could have conducted. I think I haven't had a chance to show you my real self.
I know it's a disappointment for you, but I think the particular requirements of being a covert agent with the SOE are really not for you.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate your opinion, and thank you for all the things that I've been able to do so far.
Okay. Well, it's been good to meet you, and very interesting as well, I might say. Okay. Thank you.
I'm obviously disappointed, but you know, it's fine. And Colonel feels he's seen me. I don't feel like he has. A miscommunication. It's one of those very irritating things.
Throw. Well done. Good job.
News of Dan's departure has reached the other students.
It's not entirely obvious what it was that caused them to decide that Dan hadn't met the mark, but I'm sure there were reasons, and we may never find out what they were.
Okay, prepare to throw.
To maintain secrecy, the reasons for a student's dismissal would not be explained to remaining trainees.
That's it. Next one.
For these students, training continues unabated.
That's a Stain gun. It was delivered and made in millions.
Just as it would for wartime recruits like Gabčík and Kubiš. Their target, SS Commander Reinhard Heydrich, had installed a brutal regime of repression in Nazi-occupied Czechoslovakia. Known as the Butcher of Prague, he ordered thousands of people to be executed or sent to concentration camps. The Czech government, exiled in Britain, asked SOE for help. Gabčík and Kubiš spent 6 weeks in the Highlands, planning and preparing for every aspect of their mission, codenamed Operation Anthropoid.
The beautiful thing about the Stain gun is it strips down to virtually nothing.
Now these students are following in their footsteps.
See how small it is? That's the largest piece, just over a foot in length. Very concealable. So you can hide it in a box, you can hide it in a pile of sticks. It was very good to hide around. When it was airdropped in, it was dropped in these 3 components, basically. I'm going to show you now is how to assemble it. So the first thing we do is we push the barrel in. We then tighten up the barrel nut, like so. Take the stop and slide it into place. Okay, so take out your component parts.
Cheap, robust, and capable of firing 500 rounds a minute, the Sten gun became a symbol of defiance against the Nazis, with over 1 million distributed to resistance groups during the war.
We're going to go into the fully automatic position, where you're going to shoot 2 short bursts of automatic fire into that target. Keep the gun parallel, target to your front in your own time, go on. A little high, come down a bit. That'll do you. Okay. Magazine of 30 rounds standing. Load, 2 short bursts in your own time, go on.
How do you think that went, Copsy?
It's a murderous bit of kit.
Yeah.
And using that in close quarter battles must have been absolutely scary.
You definitely feel the difference in power between that pistol, sort of assassination versus taking out multiple targets. You can feel how effective it would be in sort of an ambush situation.
Which is exactly what SOE were counting on for Operation Anthropoid. After weeks of preparation, Gabčík and Kubiš parachuted into Czechoslovakia. and on the morning of May the 27th, 1942, were lying in wait, preparing to ambush Heydrich's car. They would have just seconds to put their training into practice. Gabčík, armed with a Sten gun, stepped into the road to fire. Kubiš threw a grenade at the car. Injured by shrapnel, Heydrich died from blood poisoning 8 days later. SOE-trained agents had taken out a key Nazi leader, but it came at a terrible cost. In retribution, the Nazis murdered 5,000 Czechs. Gabčík and Kubiš were hunted down by the Nazis. Finding themselves cornered, the agents died in a brutal shootout. SOE had discovered just how effective and deadly their guerrilla training could be, and they were now striking the enemy deep inside occupied Europe.
What SOE were doing was going into an environment where it was kill or be killed. And what you've shown today is that you have the capability to get the rounds on the target and therefore kill the enemy before the enemy kills you.
I think what gives me drive and kind of the confidence to keep pushing myself is, more than anything, the fact that the SOE agents had to be spot on with all of this and learn it amazingly quickly.
Everything we've done, truth behind it, it really put an extra amount of pressure on our shoulders, I think, to try and respect the people who'd gone before us and the 1940s SOE agents.
There is no achievement greater than being able to say, yes, I could have been among those men and women who went and risked their lives to defeat the Nazis and bring an end to the war.
We've got some very capable characters. Copsey demonstrated good capability. Clitheroe has been surprisingly effective for a grandmother and a drama teacher.
We've learned so much in a short period of time. We're going on to the next part of training. Not got a clue what that could be. No idea.
I think Jeffries has a lot of promise, and actually Bajaj as well is also looking pretty impressive. So there are some good students there, and I don't think we should rule any of them out at this stage. Right, that's it for this stage of paramilitary training, but the training hasn't finished yet. Staff?
Sir, right, the day is not over. We're going on a hike. Let's go. Follow me.
What the students don't know is that they won't be returning to the house tonight. Instead, this shack in the middle of the Scottish mountains will be their new home. The next stage of the SOE syllabus has begun. Survival training. The 9 remaining students have spent the night in a remote bothy on the edge of the Cairngorm Mountains.
Expectations for what's to come, I'd say it's probably going to be quite tough again. It'd be nice to get a bit more sleep.
It was very cold in there, and I maybe slept, 15 minutes. I think that was probably about average. It was a tough night.
I would love to be a good SOE agent. I'm keen to learn how to do that, and I suppose the only way to do that is to challenge myself, but it doesn't make it any less nerve-wracking.
The course is run by 3 military instructors.
welcome to the next phase of your training.
Taking the role of SOE captains are Nicky Moffat and Mike Rennie, led by Commanding Officer Lieutenant Colonel Adrian Wheel.
This was called survival training, not because the agents were learning to live off the land, but because they needed these skills to enable them to operate in hostile territory. This is all about fieldcraft. SOE agents had to be able to move undetected from their parachute drop zones and evade an enemy that was hunting them down. It was a life or death situation.
1942 marked the height of Nazi expansion in Europe. With occupied territories stretching from Stalingrad in the east to Brittany in the west, Germany was winning the war. But the Allies were determined to fight back. SOE were already playing a vital role with increasing attacks on key Nazi infrastructure and had plans to train hundreds more agents. With most of Europe under Hitler's control, finding people with the mental and physical resilience to evade the enemy while under constant threat of capture was one of SOE's most urgent priorities.
Right, grab your kit, let's go.
The students will spend the next 3 days training in the wilderness of the Scottish Highlands. For wartime trainees, this was the perfect landscape to replicate the harsh conditions many of them would face while operating in Europe.
Drop down.
The first element of their training, how to move with stealth.
Backside down. Sit. That's it, keep your heads down as far as you can.
SOE students were taught that the head was easily spotted. Moving through the landscape unseen was uncomfortable, but essential.
It's tiring, this.
It's better than being captured, though, eh?
It's tough. It's kind of what I imagined a secret agent would be doing. You have to be aware all the time of your surroundings, where your shadows may be, what the terrain is like.
The skills they're learning now will be put to the test later in a major exercise. They'll need to use stealth, speed, and teamwork to break into a guarded building.
So Jeffries, you come out here. You three turn around.
Sergeant Major Stewart is teaching the next technique they'll need: concealment and camouflage.
Get yourself right down.
Usually parachuted into fields or open ground, hiding was often the first thing a deployed agent had to think about when dropped into enemy territory.
OK, gentlemen, turn around. Point out where Jeffries is. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Jeffries, stand up. That is with no camouflage. So all these dips, all these recesses, use them. Turn it to your advantage.
Many agents' lives were saved by basic hiding techniques like these. In 1944, SOE agent Pearl Witherington was forced to hide when the resistance group she was leading was attacked by 2,000 German troops. She fled into a wheat field, moving only when the wind moved the crops and curling up into a ball when a spotter plane flew over. The attack lasted all day, but Pearl survived. The students have been told to work as a team to conceal themselves, using only the terrain and natural materials available.
I'll help Lizzie, okay?
Okay, Lizzie, I think Lizzie, take position. As long as she doesn't poke her head out to try to get a line of sight, she's fine.
Roger, we need to work on your position there. Yeah? Come on.
Bit more of a sense of urgency and get on with the task.
After a night in the mountain bothy, 58-year-old Roger Barris is struggling.
We're given no information in advance, so there's no way for us to prepare.
He's brought his concerns to physical training instructor Corporal Wayne Forsyth.
I mean, when have you ever gone hiking without at least some idea of what you're going to encounter and prepare for.
During the SOE training, nobody was told what they were doing. But the next phase is all to do with survival, and you've got to be able to improvise, adapt, and overcome.
Can I ask one question? Are we in here for another night? Because the other thing is 0 sleep. I mean, literally 0.
This is the thing, Boris. You know, we can't tell you what's going on.
Okay.
It's how you mentally prepare yourself for any challenge. You know, you've gone through the paramilitary training. You've passed it. It's now on to the next phase of your training, which is ultimately survival. You know?
Maintaining mental resilience proved key in autumn 1942, as SOE planned one of their most important acts of sabotage to date. 12 agents parachuted into the mountains of enemy-occupied Greece, tasked with disrupting the transport links essential to Germany's operations in North Africa. The team spent weeks evading enemy patrols as they assessed the best way to sabotage this key supply line. Eventually, they chose the Gorgopotamus Viaduct, a bridge which every day carried dozens of trains packed with German troops and supplies. On the 26th of November 1942, their explosives detonated and the bridge was destroyed. It was a triumph for SOE and showed that fieldcraft could be vital to the success of operations. Now the group have the basic skills needed to move and hide behind enemy lines. It's time to put them into practice.
The next test is a version of a well-known SOE training test. This is a test of intelligence, stealth, patience, observation, and innovation. Just over the rise is a hut. The hut is guarded. Your job will be to get to the hut without being spotted by the sentry who patrols it.
The SOE syllabus taught students how to attack a range of guarded locations. It offered specific advice. Guards would be least alert towards the end of their shifts. They would change more often in cold weather, and crucially, a sentry must be carefully observed before an attack is mounted. Standing on a wooded slope, this hut has just one entrance. Waiting inside is Lieutenant Colonel Wheel. But to reach him, they'll have to make it past the guard. In the 1940s, SOE's instructors would take on the role of Nazi watchmen. Today, Corporal Foot is on patrol.
If the guard sees you, he is armed. You can assume, therefore, that he will kill you. Use your initiative.
The successful Gorgopotamus mission showed that SOE could pull off large-scale sabotage. Plans were made for more ambitious operations. But the greater the tactical importance of the target, the more likely it was to be guarded. The students have been split into 2 teams. 46-year-old Debbie Clitheroe has been chosen as leader of the first group, who are starting uphill of the hut.
What's your plan?
So from this position, I want us to just hold, watch see where the guard is, watch what his routine is. Does he have a routine? Is he going forwards, backwards? Because that way when he's moving in a direction that's away from us, we've got a bit more time to maybe move to get to a next cover position. Right, you want to get in your position, use as much cover as possible so the big tree roots are good.
Debbie takes a considered approach.
Do you want to get in your position then?
Asking Alistair to observe the guard before coming up with a strategy.
He walks along the front of the house, and then I think he was around the side. It seems to me we have the most time when he goes around the back of the house, but I'm not certain he goes around the back of the house. He might just stop and wait at the side.
The other group are trying to enter the hut from the opposite direction, at the bottom of the hill. American Roger Barris has been given the role of leader.
If you do not achieve the mission within 45 minutes, you will have failed.
The sentry is patrolling in front of the building. I think if we sweep right, we should be able to come up behind the building.
This exercise is a chance for Roger to experience the sort of training some of his countrymen might have been put through during the war. In December 1941, following the attack on Pearl Harbor, America joined the conflict. The Allies now had one of the world's most powerful nations on their side. In return, the US asked Britain to share the invaluable expertise SOE had to offer. Over 700 Americans were sent to SOE's training schools in the UK to learn the art of covert warfare. With the help of the British, the US set up their own organisation, the Office of Strategic Services. This was a precursor to the CIA, and the lessons learnt in wartime Britain still inform its methods today.
Stay down until we figure out the plan, okay?
I've put Barris into a leadership position because his head seems to have dropped and his morale's taken a dive. This is his opportunity to demonstrate that he can organise his team, communicate with them, and achieve a mission in a short space of time.
I would regard my childhood as being typically American. I played Little League, I attended school, I had dogs, I cut the lawn, I was a paper boy. It was very standard stuff. I've always tried to be the perfect boy because I always wanted to make my parents proud of me.
Are you still a perfect boy?
Well, I try to be.
So what are you afraid of?
I'm completely afraid of failure, and I'm especially afraid of failing in a way which harms others.
Do you think that goes back to your need to please people?
Yeah, and it's very possible. Will, you watch and try to pick up the periodicity, okay? Come on, now.
Roger sets off quickly, but leaves most of his team behind.
At the moment, he's way off down the hill there. The rest of his team are up there. Two of them are sitting doing nothing. So we've got a completely sort of disorganised team with no leadership here because he has no means of communicating with them.
Three. Come.
I think Roger is asking us to go.
1, 2, 3, come.
All of us, all of us.
Go that way, that way.
What is he doing?
Communication has stagnated. There's no momentum here, there's no sense of urgency.
Go down there again.
Yes.
OK, what happened when you moved around here with regard to the group at the back there?
The problem is that we lose communication with
You
them.
lose communication.
Yeah.
Don't set off on your own without giving clear instructions to
I
your
understand.
group. Yeah.
I understand.
And ensuring you have some form of signalling mechanism.
Understood.
Crack on. Time is of the essence.
While Roger tries to keep his team together,
He's turning. He's coming back.
after nearly 40 minutes, Debbie's team are yet to move at all.
Okay, you need a little bit more urgency, otherwise you're going to be here all night.
I've seen him a few more times. I'm now certain he comes down the side and on the back. That's 45 seconds.
Go now, yeah, go.
Debbie's 45 minutes are nearly up.
Go.
Rob, quickly, you've got like 15 seconds.
With moments to spare, Rob Copsey decides to make a dash for it.
You just there! Yes.
Fucking hell. Sorry, guys. Fuck it.
Debbie's cautious approach means her team have run out of time.
Stop there. Okay, team leader, sit up, please. All right, the pattern. How long did you have where the guard couldn't see you?
We had about 20 seconds where he wouldn't have been able to see us.
You could have actually started as he was walking in the other direction. He wasn't looking behind him, was he?
No, sir.
How much seconds would that have added to your time?
20 seconds.
Would you have got down if you used all the time?
Yes, yes, Captain.
Remember, time is always of an essence for an SOE mission. Look how close your scout got.
I know.
Use those extra seconds, you'd have been in there.
I know.
Downhill.
The only way I can communicate with you is by signaling, so you do not take your eyes off me, okay?
Roger is trying to rally his team.
So shall we all go?
Yes!
Barris,
Yeah.
you're showing a degree of frustration here with your team members.
Okay.
Your job as leader is to support your team, to motivate them,
Okay.
and to maintain the momentum with them.
Understood. Everybody follow along. Lizzie, you might as well come up with me as well.
With 15 minutes to go, Roger instructs his team to move uphill, towards the hut.
Next time he moves, we've got to go over there, mate.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, just meters from the hut, Sammy spots an opportunity.
So the first...
What? He needs to fucking go.
Without clear direction, Sammy and Lizzie make a break for the hut on their own. Once there, they see that they can avoid the guard by sneaking under the hut. A creative solution, and one that demonstrates exactly the sort of lateral thinking SOE were looking for.
Well done.
You just there!
Outside, Roger is spotted. With Magda also down, Will Beresford Davies is the last surviving member of the team. Will is the third student to make it to the hut.
Roger got seen. Me and Magda tried to crawl up the little stream, and then she's bad luck, she's got red hair. And she couldn't crawl as low because of her leg, so he saw her behind me.
Well done.
Thank you all.
So just line up here, please. Right, well done. 3 of you made it. You're the most successful team. As you know, this was a real test for SOE, and when SOE did it, there was a real prize. Help yourselves.
The good news doesn't end there. After spending a night in the mountains, the students are allowed to return to the house.
Sammy!
You're going to be drunk off this. Good.
Your team.
Lucy.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers, everyone.
Well done,
guys. Secret agent. I'm so tired, I can't actually think.
Oh, yeah, here's to another week.
It's been so intense. Don't think we realised how intense it was.
Today's been a bit of a rough day, especially after last night, practically sleeping in a fridge and then lying in a bush covered in moss with mosquitoes and ants crawling over you. You kind of question what the hell are you doing here? But after the second task, did really well, really enjoyed it. I've got beer in my hand, so yeah, it's been about peaks and troughs today.
While the students recover, instructors Adrian Wheel and Nikki Moffat have a chance to catch up on their progress.
Ali, he's done really well today.
He was on a high after that.
Yeah.
As was Jeffries.
Yeah.
And indeed as was Beresford Davis.
Yeah.
I think they felt really proud of themselves for having achieved that. And rightly so, because it's not an easy test.
Beresford Davis. I think he's got the approach that we're looking for, he's got the demeanour that we're looking for, and he can operate effectively as an individual. And we saw that when he moved across ground to get into the hut, when Barris, the leader, was shot by the guard.
Let's pick the pace up.
It's morning, and the students are up and out early for a hike. Training was relentless and designed to prepare them as much as possible for the harsh realities they'd face once deployed.
Right, good team effort there.
Students who didn't have the right characteristics would be withdrawn from training by instructors. But as all SOE agents were volunteers, they could also decide to leave at any time.
Ah, Barris, come sit down. I understand you wanted to see me.
Yes, I've come today to request permission to leave. I just can't do it.
Right.
I have some fundamental questions about my ability to perform successfully. Frankly, with the exercise yesterday where I was made the leader of the assault party, I think that I didn't take enough time to analyze, the general environment. I tried to rush off immediately as opposed to being a more effective communicator with the group.
When I spoke to you before in your initial interview, you told me that your greatest fear was failure.
Right.
Is that in the back of your mind now?
Yeah, it is. I mean, my performance throughout the exercises has been, I think it's been okay, but it has been far from outstanding. I do not believe I would be successful as an SOE agent.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Leaving SOE wasn't always so straightforward. Many who made it to the later stages of training had been exposed to mission-critical knowledge and were not allowed to return to their old lives straight away. Instead, some were sent to the Cooler, a remote country house such as Inverlair Lodge, where they had to wait until their knowledge was out of date. By late 1942, Allied successes, combined with fierce fighting on the Eastern Front, showed that Hitler's armies could be defeated. And SOE now had operatives working in over 20 countries, from North Africa to the mountains of Norway. SOE's instructors had to ensure that trainees were prepared to face some of the harshest conditions on the planet. As the 8 remaining students are about to find out.
This task is based on a real SOE test.
This is Black Dog Loch, 30 metres wide, 3 metres deep, and just 12 degrees centigrade.
You'll be crossing the body of water from the far side to the near side.
First up is research scientist Lizzie Jeffries.
More nervous about this task than any of the ones we've done before. I have quite a problem with cold.
Just be aware that when you get fully immersed, you'll probably be disabled for about 30 seconds whilst that cold water kicks in.
In temperatures like these, cold water shock is a very real danger. Hyperventilation, increased blood pressure, and panic can quickly set in. Remaining calm until the body adapts can be the difference between life and death.
Good work, Jeffries.
As well as giving the students the practical skills to cross a body of water, this exercise also gives an insight into how trainees cope with extreme discomfort.
Well done. You're an assistant now, aren't you? Okay.
I just decided that I would keep going, and even if it took a long time, I wasn't gonna stop. But yeah, there was a moment of doubt in the middle where I was close to giving up.
In 1942, Norwegian SOE agents were trained just a few miles from this loch, spending weeks in the cairngorms facing similar endurance tests. It was an ideal landscape to prepare them for one of the most important SOE missions of the war. The target, the Norsk hydro plant in the Telemark region of Nazi-occupied Norway. The Germans were using the facility for atomic research, which the Allies feared could lead to Hitler building the first atomic bomb. It was a danger that could not be ignored. In October 1942, with winter looming, 4 SOE-trained agents parachuted into Norway. Their orders were to prepare for the arrival of a team of commandos before leading them to the target. Success would depend on their ability to survive in sub-zero temperatures. One by one, the students braved the water and crossed the loch.
SOE would have been looking here for individuals that were able to dig really deep and do something that is thoroughly unpleasant in order to ensure that they remained safe and achieved their mission.
Well done, Tomas. Good work, Copsy.
Straight up.
Now it's Debbie's turn to enter the water.
I'm scared to death. I'm trying to just breathe.
Military psychologist Mike Rennie wants to see how the recruits respond emotionally.
Can you just tell me why you're scared?
I've always been scared of open water. I've never gone in it when I go on holiday.
Okay, just take a breath, it's okay.
I don't like go on beach holidays. I don't go in the sea. I don't. I never go to open bodies of water. I've just always had a fear of open water. I'm out in a swimming pool. I go to a swimming pool and I can swim, but anything else, no.
Clitheroe is absolutely petrified. Overcoming quite a deep-seated phobia is quite a thing for her. This is a life-defining moment.
I want to get to the other side more than anything. This is the biggest challenge for me.
You can do this.
Yes, I can.
Breathe, don't panic. And the rest will come.
Great work, great work.
If other SOE agents, just normal people like me, housewives, mothers could do it, I can do it. I'm not letting my fear of water stop me now.
Come on, Clitheroe, keep going!
You can do
Come
this!
on, Debbie. Come on, Deb! That's it, come on!
Come on, just keep going.
Come on! Just aim for me, Clitheroe, come on!
Keep going.
Leave the pack, you just get to me.
Well done, Clitheroe! Come on! Well done!
You're so close. Aim for me, come on.
She'll have her feet on the floor soon.
Come on, that's it.
Walk in. Walk in.
That's it, you can walk it now.
Well done!
Ignore the log, come on. Well done. I'm just so pleased that she managed to get across. She was obviously incredibly anxious and she overcame that, and that's really going to boost her confidence.
Big breaths.
It brings to mind those agents who during wartime were put through hugely challenging tasks. And those agents not only succeeded, but in a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks' time would have been parachuting behind enemy lines and doing this for real.
I just focused on the other side. I was like, just get there, breathe, just get to the end, get to the end, get to the end, breathe.
In November 1942, the operation in Norway wasn't going to plan. The commandos they were supposed to lead to the plant had all been killed or captured. The SOE agents had to wait for another 3 months and were forced to rely on their training to survive a brutal Norwegian winter. Finally, in February 1943, the weather cleared and 6 more SOE agents were parachuted in. The attack could begin. The hydro plant stood halfway up a mountain. To reach it, the agents had to climb down a near vertical cliff before wading through ice and snow. Evading guards, they entered the plant in the dead of night, setting off explosives before making their escape. The blast that followed brought the plant to a standstill and dealt a heavy blow to Hitler's atomic research.
OK, let's have a sense of purpose now.
For 3 days, the students have been following the same demanding survival training as their 1940s counterparts.
What do you see if you spend your entire time looking at your feet?
Nothing.
Nothing.
You don't see the enemy.
While Magda and Debbie have been left at base due to injury, the rest of the group are about to take on one of SOE's most notorious tests. An incredibly tough challenge that pushed trainees to their psychological limits.
OK, stop!
And proved whether they could conquer their fears.
Your task is to climb a series of ladders. These ladders are attached to the cliff. This replicates exactly the same tasks that were carried out by SOE agents. This is not a test of strength, although inevitably you may find this physically challenging. This is actually a test of nerves.
Shit.
3 ladders are attached to an 80-foot sheer cliff. And to make it even harder, the ladders are not connected. To get from one to another, students must clamber up the cliff face, today made extra slippery with rain.
I'm nervous, and given the weather conditions, it's unlikely I'll be able to find a stable foothold, so I'm going to give it my all, but I highly doubt I'm going to get to the top.
For most agents, the only way to get into enemy territory was by parachute, and getting back could be equally difficult. Sometimes the only way to cross European borders undetected was to navigate perilous mountain passes in the Alps or Pyrenees. A head for heights and the ability to cope in extreme conditions could be key to their survival.
This isn't feeling very secure.
Today's students are wearing safety equipment, but in wartime training, a slip on these ladders could be fatal. First up is former paratrooper Rob Copsey, who lost his leg while serving in Rwanda.
Yeah. Which do you think would be the most challenging elements of it for you?
I think all of it's going to be challenging, to be fair. It's cold, slippery, so you've got the gravity is wanting to send you down when you know you've got to go up. Long way to go.
I can feel him, I can sense him gritting his teeth.
Rob makes it across the gap and onto the second ladder.
I think he's quite extraordinary for a man with one leg.
The angle of the cliff makes the next gap even harder.
Just hugely impressive.
Awesome. Bit scary though.
Next is 32-year-old Dr. Rohini Bajaj. During the war, SOE was one of the only forces which allowed women into frontline service. So in training, they had to face exactly the same dangers as men. Nancy Wake was one of SOE's toughest agents, fighting at close quarters against the Nazis in France. In training, she conquered the ladder, but afterwards said that she would never do it again, even if the whole German army was after her.
Her hands are obviously very wet. The rungs are slippery.
Rohini has made it to the bottom of the second ladder.
She's just now slipped and she's falling back. She's at about 35, 36 feet now.
How am I going to come down?
It's quite scary, really, for those who have no experience of climbing.
It's getting more challenging as time's going on. I'm not sure at this moment in time I would have what it takes to become an SOE agent.
It meant something more than just climbing a ladder. I was doing something that the real SOE agents did and something that they feared. And that gives you kind of a strange feeling of significance of what you're doing. This is their struggle. It's cold, it's slippy, it's wet. And I felt that going up there. And you're just thinking, yeah, this is just a little bit closer to what they must have been feeling at that time. And that's kind of an amazing thing to be able to feel.
The last student to take on the ladder is former soldier Sami Ali.
How are you feeling, Ali?
Honestly?
Yeah.
Not good.
OK.
Not good, Mum. About 6 months ago, I fell off a ladder, so it's a big thing for me.
You've really got to dig deep here. If you think you can, you'll do it. And if you think you can't, you won't.
All right, Mum. I'm really not looking forward to it. As soon as I stood at the bottom of the ladder, then I'm just going to have this disgusting, anxious feeling, and then my heart will be going.
This is clearly quite a significant challenge.
Never do this.
He's feeling the heat here, but he's man enough to admit it. The question is, can he get past that first break?
Despite his anxiety, he makes it to the second ladder. And the third.
He's done well.
I'm not joking, that's probably the worst thing I've done since Afghanistan.
The rest of the students' success has given Rohini the confidence to try again.
I'm always stubborn and I refuse to give in.
Go on, Rose. Go on, Rose. Get it. Own it.
Nice, confident start. That's good to see.
Go on, Rose. Go on, Rose. Go on, Rose. You can do this.
Higher. Go higher on that ladder.
Yes, she's got her knee on. Brilliant. Section 2 to Section 3.
Yes!
Well done, Rose!
I think that an SOE conducting officer, standing here where I'm standing, would have felt a real sense of achievement on behalf of the student. They would probably have been reflecting that this was an individual now who was one step closer to deploying into occupied Europe for a mission from which they might not return. It's a sobering thought.
Absolutely exhausted. Woohoo! I did it! I'm really proud that I had the courage to go up and do it again and that I made it here.
Success on the ladder has lifted the whole group. But at the end of this part of the process, instructors would still have been assessing students to ensure they had the skills required to make it through to the next stage, finishing school.
Bajaj, she is doing things which are so different to what she is used to.
She showed us that she could dig deep and she could deliver. And maybe that's something we didn't expect from her in the early days.
Thomas, the injury remains a concern, but she strikes me as being tremendously competent.
I think she's got what it takes.
My feeling on Beres Davis is that he is the strongest member of the group. He's very competent at all the tasks, he's physically fit. Clitheroe brings with her the advantage that she is a grandmother who does not look like a secret agent.
And I think that moment in the lock will be a really defining moment for her.
I see no reason not to move all of them forwards to the finishing school. Would you be happy with that?
I think, yeah, I think I'm happy with putting all 8 forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On my command, 1, 2, 3, contact left.
Contact right!